Hey, y'all. It's a Sunday night, and we're about a week away from the election. And I'm going to try not to veer too far off my path of talking about Christian nationalism and LifeWise tonight because it's been a week. Um, but I was rewatching an episode with Catherine Stewart on Steve Schmidt's show that he has on YouTube. And yes, that's Steve Schmidt that was John McCain's campaign manager. Um, he was talking to Catherine Stewart about her latest book, Money Lies in God. And he starts out going through her works that she has written. And the first thing she talked about was the Good News Club. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you another video that I hope every single parent, every single person that doubts the power of Christian nationalism and its roots and how far it goes back, watches this. It's a really great, about 3 or 4 minute piece that she talks about her book, The Good News Club, and how she got involved in this was because the Good News Club had set up shop in her kid's school. And she realized how divisive it was. And so what's really interesting about this is that LifeWise put a one-time movie out called Off School Property, and it was one time, meaning like they only showed it once nationwide, however many theaters, and it was here at the Everett Regal Cinema. And some of us went to protest it. And one of the women that walked up, because a bunch, like 30 people, 30 LifeWise people showed up. And of course, they were all older people. There were no young people. There were no children. It was very much an older white demographic. And there were some interesting things that happened. The video is not amazing. I'll post it later. But this one woman walked up and she was talking to us about how she was the lunch lady. And I started questioning her, like, ma'am, what value does this bring? Why do you have to take children out in the middle of the day? How come their parents can't do this? And she goes, well, we tried it with the Good News Clubs, which is what Catherine Stewart is talking about in this video that I'm going to show you after this. She goes, but we just couldn't make it work because kids got on buses. And eventually, in the video I'll post later on, not with this video, her loving Christian husband literally comes and physically removes her from talking to us. It's very much not surprising based off of people like myself that have been dealing with the Christian nationalists for a decade now. We see this shit all the time out on the sidewalk in front of Planned Parenthood. Anyhow, so I thought it was interesting because they have buses, which one of the other people that I was with, she was so funny. She pointed that out instantly. She was like, but they have buses. They come pick kids up in the middle of the day. So how come the kids couldn't go with them after school and then they could take those kids home one by one? What's to stop them from doing that? But that's not what they want to do. As Catherine Stewart describes it appropriately, and it has been talked about before, the schools are the Christian rights mission field in order to change society. We're never going to defeat this unless we understand the assignment. And unfortunately, there are too many people still, as I've been trying to talk about on my new YouTube channel, Hello Washington. We're not safe here in a blue state. LifeWise is here. 40% of our hospital beds are owned by the Catholic hospital. Catholic institutions will not follow state laws when it comes to death with dignity, number one, something that was revealed in Catherine Stewart's book, The Power Worshippers, The Rise of Christian Nationalism. There was a man here in Snohomish County that right after death with dignity was passed, he found out he had spine cancer, some kind of cancer in his spine. It was going to be a horrible death, and he was in the Catholic hospice services. And he went to them and said, I want to engage in my rights to terminate my life so I don't have to suffer. And they refused him because they didn't believe in that. And then he ended up committing suicide. And the nurses were so upset by it that they actually made a report to the state. I need us to understand the assignment. So I'm going to be done. So I have time to play this video within the 10 minutes. I hope the parents of Everett and in Gig Harbor that are now battling this, it's going to Mukilteo. It is going, I think, to Burlington. It is going to school districts all over this state. It is a mission field. And we need to stop being so fucking pussyfoot about calling out the religion for the fucking problem it is. So good night, everyone. Bye.
Who are from outside the district right, who are not parents, right? I imagine them holding a cord. Where are they plugging into? Where do they make first contact in the Santa Barbara school day? Is it at a principal level? Is it at a board level? How do they breach the frontier?
They send a letter with legal backing from groups like the Alliance Defending Freedom and Liberty Council, which says, essentially, you need to let us in or we're going to launch a lawsuit. And what I could see is that these legal advocacy groups were reframing the First Amendment, religious freedom, to count as nothing more than speech from a certain point of view. So these kinds of clubs had been excluded from public we're talking really little kids here. They've been excluded from the public elementary schools for years because they're adult-led clubs, not student-led. It's not like the Fellowship for Christian Athletes, which happens at the high school level and is led by students ostensibly. We're talking really little kids. And but they mounted a legal strategy to reframe the idea of religion as speech from a certain point of view, and then force these programs into thousands of public elementary schools nationwide. And once I recognized the legal strategy, the perversion of what I could see as not just the religion clauses of the First Amendment, but also the free speech clause of the First Amendment, and I recognized that the legal advocacy sphere of the religious right was putting into place over time these novel legal building blocks, bringing just the right cases to the right circuit courts to get this big win. I could see that they were aiming to destroy our democracy. It was as clear to me as day back 16 years ago. And I thought, wow, if they follow this strategy to its logical conclusion, they are really going to try to take down our democracy. I also started really digging into the ideas behind the organization, the Child Evangelism Fellowship. This is a group that was incredibly hostile to the institution of public education because public schools are rooted in the principles of equality and pluralism. They're supposed to neither affirm nor denigrate any particular religious viewpoint because they have to be comfortable and open for all families. And they were exploiting this public schools in order to eventually destroy public schools. I went to their national convention. That was one of the first things I did. And I heard speakers say things like, any education that's not rooted in our faith is, a consequence of evil. I also saw speakers were basically talking about, they were very, very anti-pluralism, but they were also, young earth creationists. They were deeply, deeply fundamentalist. They talk about children as strategic machinery for taking back the culture. They said, one speaker said, if you want to change the direction of the cruise ship, you got to go after those kids. It's the most strategic age group we have. They spoke of our public schools as mission fields and our children as the harvest. And they also hated public education. They would say, kick down the doors of the public schools or knock down all doors and all barriers to those public K through 12. Take the gospel to this open mission field now. And so it was really clear to me. I looked into this organization. I looked into their linkages there, and I could see that they were really part of a deep organizational infrastructure of the Christian nationalist movement. They weren't just aiming for a seat at the table. They weren't just aiming to, we just want our voices heard in the noisy forum of American democracy. We just want to be treated like everyone else, which is what they said. They really wanted to take over. And I recognized that the hostility to public education ran so deep. I mean, Jerry Falwell laid the agenda out in 1979. He said, I hope to see the day when there are no more public schools. Churches will have taken them over and Christians will be running them. So this is a sort of long story about how I fell down into this world. And my newest book, Money, Lies, and God,